What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the random video blog where every single Friday I, Graham GSM Matthews, run down my rambling thoughts in the wrestling world, share a few stories, etc., etc. As you can probably tell in the videos I've been putting up over the last few weeks here in the random video blog, I was in attendance for the 2018 Royal Rumble in addition to TakeOver Philadelphia the night before. Once again, I've said it once, I'll say a million times more. Thank you once again to Mr. Marceau, RJ, for an amazing weekend in Philly for both TakeOver and the Rumble, and many memories made in between. Great seeing him and a great time at the Rumble in Philly. So I should note, by the way, too, before I go forward, I was wearing the shirt not only at the show, but on Sunday too. I got home from work this past Sunday. I threw on this shirt, and it just so happens the Eagles won the fucking Super Bowl. And I put this on before they won the game, so I credit myself for them winning the game, but nonetheless, I really, really like the shirt. But speaking of the Royal Rumble, the reason I bring that up is because the Rumble was probably the last major item on my wrestling bucket list, which I know I've mentioned before. I put up an actual list of things I wanted to do in wrestling about 4 years ago. I believe it was 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Late 2014. I put up a list on the Facebook page, facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthew. If you don't already like the page, then what are you waiting for? Go give the page a thumbs up. But anyway, I put up this giant list of things I wanted to do as a wrestling fan. And by April of last year, I accomplished all of them. And on the list, it was not limited to, but these were among them. Go to an NXT show, which I did with TakeOver in 2015. I've been to, I think, 7 NXT shows now, including takeovers and live events and stuff like that. Go to an NXT show. Go to a TNA show, which I always wanted to do, but I accomplished in the summer of 2014. Go to a Ring of Honor show. I've now been to 2. Their All-Star Extravaganza pay-per-view in September of 2016, and their Final Battle pay-per-view late last year as well in December of 2017. Go to a pay-per-view period, which I accomplished with SummerSlam first, and I've been to SummerSlam 2015, 2016, TLC 2015, Extreme Rules 2016, Hell in the Cell 2016, and now WrestleMania 33. And also, obviously, attend a WrestleMania, which I had never done before last year. And the second to last item also on that list was go to a wrestling show at Madison Square Garden, which I also accomplished in December of 2016. So what remained on that list? Going to a Royal Rumble. I've always wanted to go to a Royal Rumble. RJ bought the tickets for himself and myself last summer and last July. And for the 6 months leading up to the pay-per-view, I was super, super hyped. Well exceeded my expectations of being a great show, one of the best Rumbles I've ever seen, and had a blast. So now that I've been to a Rumble, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, and all these other things, what remains on my wrestling bucket list? So once again, these are merely 5 items. They're not limited to these 5 items. There's likely many more I have yet to officially add on, but, like honorable mentions, see Kenny Omega wrestle live. I've never seen Kenny Omega wrestle live. There's a lot of people I've had the pleasure of seeing live, including Stone Cold Steve Austin just recently at Raw 25. Never The Rock or Hulk Hogan. They'd probably be on this list too. See The Rock and Hogan in person as well. See Kenny Omega wrestle live. Probably go to a PWG show. Those are near impossible to get into because tickets sell out so fast, and it's all the way over in California. So that's very unlikely, but you never know. Maybe go to a New Japan show. I've never been to a New Japan show before. They rarely tour here in the U.S., and when they do, it's down in Florida. And, going to Japan to check out a wrestling show would be pretty cool. Maybe at some point a little further down the road. What else? PWG, New Japan. Going to a Lucha Underground show at the Temple. Again, also in California, so very unlikely, but it'd be pretty awesome. I've been to California before, 11 years ago at this point, in the summer of 2007. A little bit before I started watching wrestling, but it would be cool to go to California for any one of those shows. So anyway, those are the honorable mentions. And also, maybe wrestle myself. I've done mixed martial arts in the past, but I've never actually stepped into I've stepped into a wrestling ring, but I've never had a tryout match or even trained to be a wrestler. I would never want to be a wrestler. As you guys could probably tell, I'm not cut out to be a wrestler. I would never want to be a wrestler. But to try it for one day as a tryout camp, I know Jason said the same thing before, would be pretty cool just to say I tried it and I know what it's like to step between the ropes as a competitor. So maybe, again, at some point down the road. Top 5 things that are now on my wrestling bucket list, though. Number 1, attend the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, Jason and I nearly did this last year when we were in Orlando for WrestleMania weekend, but we didn't get in until late Friday night because of multiple delays. It was a fucking nightmare. So we probably would have missed most of it anyway, even if we did like rush over to the arena. It would have been a fucking nightmare. And also that we were also going to TakeOver. We were already going to WrestleMania. And maybe if I have more money or something, the next time I'll go to a Hall of Fame just to say that I did. It'd be pretty cool. I really have no interest in sitting there and hearing people talk for like 4 fucking hours. So that's just me. But it would be cool to go to just to say that I did. And the class would have to be pretty strong. But the classes for the Hall of Fame have been pretty strong in recent years. So maybe like the year that William Regal goes in, which with my luck would be this year. But I was hoping it'd be last year, but thankfully it wasn't. If I wasn't going to go, thankfully it wasn't that year that he went in. But again, maybe at some point down the road, I would definitely go to a Hall of Fame just to say that I did. WrestleMania Access would also be on the list, but I did that last year too, which was a blast. If I had to choose between Access, which was another thing we did that year, so which is why we didn't go to Hall of Fame. But if I had to choose between Access and Hall of Fame, Access any day of the week. Like, I loved Access last year. But just to say that I did it, I'll probably go to a Hall of Fame at some point. But speaking of WrestleMania weekend, number 2 on my list, attend a post-WrestleMania Raw. Now, like I said, we went to TakeOver, Access, WrestleMania last year. We didn't go to Raw. That would have been way too much. I have been to 3 wrestling shows in the matter of a weekend before. John and I did that with SummerSlam weekend back in 2016, TakeOver, SummerSlam, and the Raw after SummerSlam, which was fun. It wasn't the best Raw I've ever been to, but it was fun at the Barclays Center. Post-WrestleMania Raws are like now notorious for being like amazing and surprise returns and debuts and title changes and all this other stuff. So I would totally go to a post-WrestleMania Raw. Seems like it would be a lot of fun. Again, I would just have to prepare for it financially to pay all that money. You can't just go to WrestleMania weekend and just go to WrestleMania at this point. Like, I know a lot of people do, but I just can't do that. Like, I would love to go to TakeOver. You can't miss out on TakeOver. You'd have to go to WrestleMania. And I'd have to go to Hall of Fame and Raw, so I'll save up for it. But to go to a post-WrestleMania Raw would be pretty lit, pretty sweet, as the kids would say. Number 3 on the list, speaking of pay-per-views, like I said, I've been to, at this point, Hell in a Cell, TLC, Extreme Rules, 2 SummerSlams, and a WrestleMania. I think there might be one other one that I went to. I almost went to Clash of Champions a few months ago, but it was in Boston. I'm not as close to Boston as I once was, and it was also fucking like not that great of a show. So I'm glad I didn't go, and I'm glad I went to the Rumble, and also the Rumble. How could I forget the Rumble? So I've been to all those pay-per-views. So at this point, to kind of complete the not the triad, I don't know what it'd be called. I've been to the 3 biggest of the big 4 pay-per-views: Rumble, Mania, and SummerSlam. I'll probably go to SummerSlam again this year, if not just take over Brooklyn 4, because those shows are always incredible. But I want to kind of complete the big 4, the big 5 now, I guess, and also going to Survivor Series and Money in the Bank. Now, Money in the Bank, I say, is now a big 5 pay-per-view, not because it's been around for 20 years. It's been around a little while, actually. It debuted in 2010, so it's been around for almost close to a decade, but not nearly as long, obviously, as Survivor Series, Mania, Rumble, and SummerSlam. But I want to go just to say I've been to the Big 5. And Money in the Bank at this point is pretty much a Big 5 pay-per-view, because it's going to be, I believe, a co-branded pay-per-view this coming summer, and they're going to have like the same thing they do with the other Big 4 pay-per-views, where they do a TakeOver, Money in the Bank, Raw, and SmackDown all in the same venue that weekend. So to me, that makes it a Big 5 pay-per-view. I almost went to Money in the Bank a few years ago, back in Boston, in 2014. You know, RJ was at that show. It honestly was one of the weaker installments, so I'm kind of glad I didn't go. It had a great Money in the Bank ladder match, and the main event was also entertaining, but overall it was not a great show, like, at all. Not nearly as good as other Money in the Bank shows we've seen in recent years, over the years. So I'm glad I didn't go to that show. But just to say that I've gone, I want to go to a Money in the Bank show at some point. I'm not sure where it's going to be this year. I heard maybe Chicago. That would be pretty sweet, but, like, the thing is, I did the math the other day, like, I was kind of thinking about it. I've gone to, like, all these, like, oh, this Big 4 pay-per-view, this year. 2015, I was at SummerSlam. In 2016, too. 2017 was WrestleMania. In 2018, I was at the Rumble. So, like, I don't want to go to either one this year. And I'm also going to other shows. I don't really plan on going to either Big 4 pay-per-view. So, we'll see. Actually, I might be at WrestleMania next year if they come back to the Northeast. So, I might not be able to go to Survivor Series or a Money in the Bank next year either. It depends. But going to Chicago for a wrestling show would be pretty sweet. I've been to Chicago, like, very briefly when I went to go visit my girlfriend late last year, last August. And I'll be there again in a few months, or next month, actually. but I was never there for like a substantial period of time. I've been to Boston or Chicago. Did I say Boston? I'm in Chicago, technically, but not for like a substantial period of time. So going there for a wrestling show for like a Money in the Bank would be cool. One of my favorite pay-per-views of all time, the 2011 installment. I think Survivor Series this year is going to be in California, which I would absolutely not pay the money to go see, just for fucking Survivor Series. But again, maybe at some point down the road, maybe in 2019 again or 2020. Number 4, CNXT at Full Sail University. Now, like, words cannot describe how much I wanted to do this when I went to Florida. I was there twice last year. Once with Jason for Mania weekend, but I also went back like 2.5 months later for a family vacation in Orlando. And we went to Disney and all that other stuff, which was fun. I wanted to go to an NXT show, but the day they were hosting the NXT tapings of Full Sail, I was leaving to come back home. And I was so mad, not mad, but I was like, oh, that would have been so cool to go to Full Sail. It wasn't too far off from where our hotel was. So it would have been cool, but if there's still a Full Sail in a few years, in a year or two, I'll definitely fly down there just to go to, a Full Sail NXT show. Like I said, I've been to takeovers, a few live events here and there, never an NXT TV taping at Full Sail, so that's also on the list. And it wouldn't hurt to go back to Florida either. Florida's awesome. And then finally, this isn't really a bucket list item, kind of sort of is. In the past, on my bucket list, I've never put people I want to meet because you never know, like, how unlikely that might be. Like, if you told me a few years ago when I first made that list that in the matter of a year, I would be able to meet Batista, Christian, and Chris Jericho, let alone in the matter of a few months, I would have called you crazy. But I did all those things. I met all those people in 2017 alone, let alone in just, like, the fall season. So I've been able to meet a lot of my favorite wrestlers, including Christian, Chris Jericho. Among my top 3 favorites are CM Punk and William Regal as well. The Miz is also up there, so I'm going to put down meet CM Punk, meet William Regal, and meet The Miz. The Miz, like, it's one thing if I have the opportunity to meet certain people and I miss out on it, and then I'm kind of pissed. I had that with The Miz. Like, I think he was appearing at, like, Cricket Wireless or something in Boston before a SmackDown show or a live event or something that I was going to a few years ago. It would have been next to impossible to get to, so I'm glad I didn't go to that. But I'll get my opportunity at some point down the road. William Regal does not obviously do many appearances because he works for WWE, as does The Miz, but he's not in a wrestling role. Like, he doesn't do many autograph signings. He did appear at a Progress show, or an Evolve show, I think, at the same arena I went to that Progress show back in August. And it was the night that it was snowing really bad. That wasn't the reason I didn't go. I had a wedding to go to. Like, there's very few things, rather, that I would skip out on, that I would, miss. Or not many things I would miss to go meet William Regal. Like, I would totally skip anything to go meet William Regal if the stars aligned. But I had to go to this wedding. It was a family wedding. I couldn't miss out on it. So I was like, fuck it, whatever. I'll get my chance at some point down the road. So hopefully I can meet William Regal at some point. As for CM Punk, nowadays, obviously, he doesn't do many signings. I mean, if he does, it's down in Chicago. It's not up here like in the Northeast, the Comic-Cons and shit like that, which would be amazing. But I have to meet CM Punk. That's also on the list. So once again, the 5 things that are on the list, the other things are just kind of honorable mentions, but are technically on there as well. Once again, attend the WWE Hall of Fame. Attend a Post-WrestleMania Raw. See NXT at Full Sail University, attend Survivor Series and Money in the Bank, and meet The Miz, CM Punk, and William Regal. So, again, guys, that is my very brief wrestling bucket list. All the other ones I accomplished on there, all the other items I've crossed off, so maybe at some point we can cross off all of these as well. We'll check back in a few years. But anyway, guys, what's on your wrestling bucket list? Do you want to go to a pay-per-view? Have you ever been to a WrestleMania? If not, do you want to go to WrestleMania? Another pay-per-view? Is it even WWE related? Do you want to go to a TNA show, Ring of Honor, New Japan? What's on your wrestling bucket list? I would love to know. Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Find me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant and on Facebook as well at facebook.com /Graham.gsm.Matthews. And as always, guys, be sure to like this video, drop a comment, like I said, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. I'll be back next Friday with another all-new random video blog. Until then, guys, have an awesome rest of your weekend. Have a fantastic Friday, and I'll catch your ass down the road.